Welcome back. Today, the Airstream Basecamp gets its first major upgrade. I'm tired of cranking that hand jack on the tongue of the trailer, so I'm going to install the Phoenix 4000 electric tongue jack. This is the fastest jack on the market. Now, removing the existing jack is simple. It's 3 bolts. But the new jack requires power, which means we have to run power lines through that channel underneath the propane house, underneath the trailer, back to the battery box. Now the battery box is right above that reflector, kind of in front of the port for remote solar panels. As I slide under here, you'll see the white vent there. That is the vent for the battery box. So we know the box is just above that. And as I slide under the trailer, shazam, there are the wires from the A-frame of the trailer. Those are your turn signals and such that you plug into your tow vehicle. Now, there is a hole there in that channel. It's kind of globbed up with sealant, which is nasty. There's a grommet there. Not sure why it has that sealant, but you can see where the wires come out near the front of that A-frame. So we're going to fish a wire through that channel just like that. That red wire is just a 12 gauge electric wire that I fished from the back there to the front. Just stick it in that back hole and push it forward, gently pushing until you see it near the front hole. You might have to stick your finger in there and feel for it, but once it's there, you can grab it with a pair of needle nose and pull it out. Simple. Now you got to remove the existing crank jack. Just 3 bolts. Now they get a little sticky because they've got some road grime, maybe some corrosion, but just pull those bolts out one at a time. Over here, you want to be careful of that little box. Now that is the controller for your emergency brakes. If your trailer becomes disconnected from your tow vehicle, it pulls the cable and it activates the brakes. Take the foot off the jack, lift, and out it comes. That couldn't be simpler. Putting the new one in is just the reverse. Slip it down through the hole. Now you do have to align it a little bit, but it'll slide right down through there. Line your holes up on the new flange with the flanges on the A-frame and use the same bolts if you like. I did. I didn't see any reason to replace them. I guess if you do, you probably want to use a grade 8 bolt for extra strength. Don't forget to reattach your controller for the emergency trailer brakes. I got them snug with a 1/4 inch ratchet and then finished them off with an open end box end wrench. Now if you have an impact driver, you make really quick work of this. Just boom, boom, boom. I pushed, I guess, probably 70 pounds of torque on those bolts. You want them secure. Now you just got to fish the wires down through that A-frame behind the jack. I just kind of straighten them out a little bit so they don't get all knotted up. Pull them down, mindful of the existing wires, and crawl under. Now, you got to attach these wires to the wire that you fished through the A-frame, or that channel. Now, you see that grommet hanging up there? That one. Yep, that one. Don't forget to feed your wires, the wires to the jack, through that grommet. I did it the first time. Forgot all about it. Pulled the wires all the way through, pulled out the wire that I fished through there, and had to redo it all again for this video. So, don't forget to feed your wires through that grommet. Now, when you attach your wires to that fishing wire, let's just call it that, you want 4 or 5 inches of overlap, and don't be afraid to use a good bit of tape. The last thing you want is for these wires that you're taping together to come undone, because you'll be pulling, and the wires you're fishing through will come disconnected from that fishing wire and be halfway through or halfway to where you need them, and you may not know it until you get that fishing wire all the way out, and then you have to send it back through that channel. And while it's not hard, it's just a nuisance and it takes a while. Now, I'm pushing these wires with my right hand and pulling on the other wire with my left hand. Gently, always gently, but once those wires come through, you see my tape and the wires are right there. I grab the wires that are all taped up, all three of them together, and pull those through. Now, I just took a Phillips screwdriver and poked a hole in that rubber there, and now I'm feeding both wires up through that hole into the battery box. Now we go up inside the trailer, and the batteries are just behind this cover underneath the dinette. All right, I'm waving the yellow caution flag here. It's important to remember that even with the battery disconnect in the off position, the batteries retain their power, which means you do not want your wrench to touch a red terminal and anything else that is grounded in the trailer, or you'll end up looking like this guy, and nobody wants that. 2 screws, 2 finished caps, pull the caps off, undo the screws. I leave one of the screws in there part way or reinsert it part way so that I can pull that out. Just stick it in the hole, kind of wedge it, and that comes right out. Now, the first thing I noticed when I did this was, look at the batteries. They're just in there cattywampus. The battery box is broken, and it's broken because those batteries don't fit in the container that's holding them. Shame on you, Airstream. That's just bad workmanship. Sorry, it is. It's just bad workmanship. But we'll address that in another video. For now, the wires that we fed up are a little bit short of making it all the way to the battery. Now in this video, I'm going to attach these wires directly to the battery. When I do the next video, chances are I'm going to run these to the shunt. I'm going to install a smart shunt. But for now, I'm going to connect them to the battery. Black to negative, red to positive. A couple of butt connectors, little extension wire. If you need to extend the wire, make sure you use a good 12 gauge or 10 gauge wire. You don't want to go lighter. Now these connectors, these little eyelet connectors will fit right on the bolts to the battery. Now if you have battle-born batteries, they use a bolt and a nut, and the bolt doesn't have anything to hold it in place while you take the nut off. So you need a wrench on the back side as well as the front. And that nut has a nylon bushing in there so that it doesn't vibrate off. It stays tight. So it has a little bit of resistance. But with a wrench on back, easy peasy. Boom, tighten this up. Now as I'm tightening this, I realize that that bolt and nut right there are loose. That's the only reason I'm tightening it. It's because it's loose. It has nothing to do with the installation of the jack. I was just there and took care of it. Now notice I installed the black or negative wire first. Now I'm going to install the red or positive wire. All right, the butt connectors and terminal ends that I used have a shrink wrap to them. Simply heat those up and that yellow plastic shrinks around the wire, creating a waterproof seal. I'm not going to do that at this stage. I'll address that when I redo the battery box. All right, back outside. We'll encase these wires in a black plastic split loom. Simply work the wires into the split. There I just stuffed it into the grommet underneath. Work it in all the way to the top. There we go, shazam. A couple of pieces of electrical tape to keep that in place. Remember, it gets pretty windy back there, and all the road grime and grit and all of that. Plus, it just looks good. All right, we're going to do the same thing underneath. The 2 wires that we ran, the black and the red, work that loom into the grommet. Just like that. Now, I'm going to do the same with those blue wires. However, if it weren't for that gray wire, I could put them all in one loom. But that gray wire splits them, and so I got to use 2 looms. Right now I'm going to take this clasp off and replace it with a larger one that holds all of the wires, the existing wires plus the ones that we added. Now I can put a loom over those blue wires. It can be a little bit of a booger to get it started, but once you get it started, it goes pretty quick. There we go. Stuff it into the loom with that end, stuff it into the loom with that end. Put the clasp around all the wires. Put the screw in. And boom. All right, I got kicked out of the shop, but it's the moment of truth. Let's see if it works. Power on. We want to raise the trailer up. Woohoo! Yeah. Okay, look at that. All right, now the foot is on the block. Let's see how fast it is. That's pretty quick. Okay, one more test here. Okay, not only does the Phoenix 4000 work, but it works very, very well. There were a few issues with existing workmanship, but I resolved those as I went. It wasn't that big a deal. I'll address the battery issue down the road. It won't be too far down the road. It'll be in an upcoming video. But focusing on the Phoenix 4000 install, I think if I wasn't filming it, 2 hours would be a realistic time frame to put it in and to put it in correctly. To do it with everything that I showed here in the video, putting the armor plating on the wires, running the wires through the stub frame or the A-frame, putting the grommets in so that they actually do what they're supposed to do and protect the wires from getting cut by the metal in the frame, connecting them to the battery properly, 2 hours max. It wasn't that big of a deal, and I couldn't be happier. I can't wait till it's raining and I have to disconnect the Airstream now. It's going to be a breeze. And this thing is fast. It moves 10 inches in 18 seconds. Most jacks move 10 inches in 50 seconds, 50, almost a minute. This thing is more than 3 times as fast as other jacks out there. Now I'll show you in a future video just how fast that is. So stay tuned. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe now. Thanks.